everybody, my name is Eric Hopkins and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're finding me for the very first time, please click that like and subscribe button and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you get all the notifications about when I put up new content here on my channel. So I've been doing a little bit of a series here on my channel discussing the future of certain franchises, the big four as I like to call them: Star Wars, Star Trek, DC, and now I want to do a video about the future of Marvel. Not just Marvel Studios, but Marvel in general, because there's other content that is coming out from Marvel that is not involved with Marvel Studios, or if they are, it's just adjacent to Marvel Studios at this point. So let's get into a little bit of where Marvel is going here. I want to run down the future of where this franchise is headed. So let's go over here and check out my hard drive here that's got all my Marvel content on it, obviously starting all the way back to the first Avenger. I know some of this stuff doesn't necessarily fall into the MCU, but I like to kind of put things in my Marvel file here and based on the time. Like say, the first Avenger took place in World War II, and then of course Agent Carter took place right after that, and then X-Men First Class, I believe, took place in the 60s, if I remember correctly, maybe even the 50s. But even so, I kind of like to do it, in order of life timeline here, kind of like, and then of course Wolverine took place after that, and Captain Marvel in 1995, and so on and so on. So I kind of like to run my Marvel a little bit different than I do my DC, to where it's kind of based on release order. This is more based on a time period, like the Blade movies took place kind of where they were made in 1998, 2002, 2004, and of course Blade obviously has been known to be, this film right here is what got Marvel on the map. If it was not for Blade in 1998, which started all of this, we would not be having the Marvel Cinematic Universe and all the great films that we have now. So obviously this trilogy, especially the first film, we are indebted to Blade and Wesley Snipes for that film. So thank you, Wesley, for bringing us all the Marvel goodness that we're about to get into here. And of course, all this stuff, some of it ties into the MCU, but I think we're going to find out soon that everything is going to count, much like all the DC movies, that even though they don't take place in the DCEU, the multiverse is going to be real. And I think all these things are going to count going down the line. And of course, we've got the start of the XMen franchise began here in 2000, which is another film we owe a big debt of gratitude to. Blade and the original X-Men film showed Hollywood that comic book movies can work, and of course, the Raimi Spider-Man film just added upon that. So we were off running. We hit our home run with these films, and we're going to continue to get more, hopefully. And speaking of Spider-Man films, we definitely got a lot of talk right now, centered around the Spider-Man franchise as a whole, and about where Spider-Man No Way Home will be going, but we'll get into that once we get down there. And of course, we had, Ben Affleck's Daredevil, an underrated film, especially the director's cut. I thought it was actually a lot better than the theatrical cut, so go check it out. And of course, it had the spin-off film Elektra starring Jennifer Gardner. Not a great film, but at the same time, it's a nice companion piece to the Daredevil film. Of course, we have more X-Men films. We got the original Ang Lee Hulk, which is not the best Hulk film in the world, but at least kind of give a little bit more of a detailed origin to the Hulk that the subsequent films really did not get into a whole lot. So they at least did not continue to tell the same story over and over again there. Then we had The Punisher with Thomas Jane, Punisher again with Warzone, which is another great, very violent duology here, which is very good as well. So I highly check those out. I recommend you check those out. Spider-Man 2, the much better film out of the three here with Sam Raimi's trilogy. This movie with Alfred Molina as Doc Ock obviously is one of the all-time classics, not just in Spider-Man, movies here. We're talking all-time comic book films. Spider-Man 2 is one of the best comic book films of all time, in my opinion. And then we have X-Men Last Stand. A lot of people didn't care for that. Then we had the duology of the Fantastic Four films with Chris Evans as the Human Torch, who would obviously be playing Captain America in the future here. I don't mind these films. The only bad thing about these films, in my opinion, is obviously Galactus being another cloud, kind of like Parallax in the Green Lantern world. I don't know why you make big clouds in space and things like that. That's not going to work. So hopefully, if the Marvel Cinematic Universe ever touches Galactus again, he will not be a cloud. And I don't think they're going to do that mistake twice. Then, of course, we had Ghost Rider, played by Nicolas Cage. He got two movies as well. The first film, in my opinion, was the better of the two, especially the extended cut. It actually, kind of like Daredevil, is a much better film. So if you've not seen the extended cut, maybe go give it a chance. But Spirit of Vengeance is not the greatest movie in the world. It's a definite departure from what the first film was, and they tried to do something different. I don't know if it really worked. Then, of course, we get Spider-Man 3 that rounded out the Raimi trilogy that kind of set up the MCU moving forward after some of these films didn't really connect to one another. But again, with the MCU probably introducing the multiverse, they're going to maybe show how some of these were just alternate universes and different worlds in the timeline here. So it could still be considered, canon, so to speak. And then, of course, we get into the MCU with another film we owe a great debt to, and that is the original Iron Man film starring Robert Downey Jr. And, of course, that got the ball rolling with the MCU with Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, some of these one-shots that were released on the Blu-rays, and, of course, Thor and the Avengers film, rounded out Phase 1, along with Captain America, the First Avenger as well. And, of course, we got Captain Rogers coming back in Avengers as well after being on ice for all them years, which is why I put it here. This is all the time when he's on ice. So when you get the reintroduction of him in Avengers, it makes a little bit more sense as, you as an audience member, think Captain Rogers is dead for all those years and he comes back here. And of course, we get the Amazing Spider-Man films, more XMen stuff. And then, of course, we start to delve into TV with Marvel, saying it was all going to be connected with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But midway through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s series run here, they kind of depart away from the MCU a little bit and don't really reference the movies. And the movies definitely don't reference the events of S.H.I.E.L.D. that often. There's little teases that, the TV show describes, like with Age of Ultron and the helicarrier and things like that. But there's really not a whole lot of cross promotion there, even though Nick Fury does show up a few times on S.H.I.E.L.D. and things like that. There's a little bit there, but it's not required viewing for the movies. But it's kind of nice to just kind of see another side of the MCU a little bit here as well. And of course, we get into more MCU stuff. Amazing Spider-Man, the New Mutants. I know it came out just last year, but I kind of like to put it down here because it makes more sense narratively to kind of put it in front of Days of Future Past and The Gifted, which kind of, all of which, or X-Men light, as I like to call it. They don't really tie it to the main X-Men timeline, so it's just kind of nice to put them elsewhere. And, of course, Big Hero 6. A lot of people don't remember, but it is a Marvel film, and it has its own animated series now as well on the Disney Channel, I believe. So definitely go check it out. It's a lot of fun. And, of course, we got more intertwining of the MCU. Then we get the Netflix series. They started to introduce their own series on Netflix that kind of tie into the MCU, especially at first. It's kind of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They do a lot of references to the MCU at first, but then by the end, they kind of stopped referencing it as much, I believe. And, of course, that involved Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, which we'll get to, and, of course, the Defenders team-up show that they did before Netflix canceled them and Disney got the rights back. So we'll see what they do with those characters as well, like including the Punisher and all that. Then we got Age of Ultron, Ant-Man, Deadpool with the X-Men series. So all this, again, just, kind of intertwining a little bit here. Some of it don't really reference each other, but based on the timeline and the, real life, I thought it was good to put it in this order. Then we had Logan, which is basically close to the end of the X-Men series, Spider-Man Homecoming, Captain America Civil War, which obviously, broke up the Avengers with Baron Zemo, which led to the Infinity War and Endgame, a highly crucial film here. And, of course, all the subsequent films dealt with the fallout of the Civil War, like Spider-Man Homecoming, Black Panther, and the soon-to-be-released Black Widow film, which is kind of where I want to start a lot of this. Obviously, we got the beginning of the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters as well with the Venom movie, which they're now expanding, as I'll get into here in a little bit. That series, along with the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Sony is starting to pick up its Spider-Man verse or its Spidey-verse, or its Marvel-verse, as they like to call it. They want to reference it as a Marvel universe, not just a Spider-Man universe, because they have 900 characters in their contract with the Spider-Man characters that they want to expand upon, and apparently they're going to start doing that going forward. Then, of course, all the the Netflix stuff come to an end here. The X-Men finally came to an end with Dark Phoenix from 20th Century Fox, and now Marvel has all of their rights back as well. It's a long story about all these rights that are being owned by different companies and whatnot, but obviously it led up to the big, finale with Thor Ragnarok, Ant-Man kind of happening at the same time as Infinity War. And then, of course, we got the big event that this is where it all takes place right here. Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. That is the big finale of the MCU, which kind of, in a sense, kind of resets everything going on here with Marvel. Because during this time, Marvel got the rights to the 20th Century Fox X-Men franchise, and they got all their Netflix Daredevil and Jessica Jones and all those rights back as well. So now they have most of their characters. The only characters that Marvel does not have ownership of it right now is the Hulk, which they have ownership of, but they don't have the rights to distribute films. So they can make a Hulk movie anytime they want, or put Hulk in a team-up film. But if they make a solo film, they have to pay Universal to distribute that film, which is why we don't normally get a Hulk solo film nowadays. But so they have the Hulk, but they can't distribute the film. And the only other character they don't own is Spider-Man. Sony owns Spider-Man and all of its ancillary characters, including Venom, Kraven the Hunter, Morbius, and all the Sinister Six, all that stuff. They own all of that. So right now, Marvel, the MCU, the Marvel Studios, has a contract with Sony Pictures to where they are sharing the Spider-Man characters, and that's why you see Nick Fury and Iron Man and Homecoming showing up in Spider-Man movies. So they have a partnership to where Spider-Man gets to be in the MCU, as well as probably crossing over into some Sony movies, which we're about to get into here. So after Endgame, it kind of resets everything, and Spider-Man Far From Home kind of teases, where the MCU, where's it going to go? We have no more Avengers, that sort of thing. And of course, we wrapped up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7, a little bit of a Hellstrom side character storyline on Hulu, and of course, we have MODOK doing the same thing, which is an adult animated series, kind of like Robot Chicken, that kind of stands on its own as well. So that takes us up to where we pretty much are now. I know it's a lot, but anyway, bear with me here. So at the beginning of 2021, we got the restarting of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so to speak, with WandaVision on Disney+. And that led into The Falcon and Winter Soldier, and that is we're picking up now right after the events of Avengers Endgame. So if you've not seen the MCU up to that point, go back and watch it. It is definitely worth your time. And of course, we're going to be getting Loki in just 1 week's time, a little less probably by the time you see this video. And it debuts on June 9th, 2021. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. We're going to see where the 2012 version of Loki picks up after he stole the Tesseract in Avengers Endgame. This is not the same Loki that got killed by Thanos. That Loki is gone. The one who had all the character development and learned how to, actually love his brother Thor, and you actually have an affinity for his father Odin as well, or stepfather, however you want to put it. But this is the Loki who is still a bad guy after the Avengers captured him in Avengers 1. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this character as he goes in and out of the timeline after he took the Tesseract and broke reality. So they're going to be dealing with the Time Variant Authority or Agency or whatever they want to call it, when Owen Wilson is going to have to, put a bit of a lock on Loki and try to get him to, settle down and actually stop breaking the universe. So we'll see how that series goes and where it leads into things going forward. And maybe we'll see if Loki ends up in Thor Love and Thunder next year. Then this summer we have What If, which will be Marvel's first animated series that will be directly linked to the MCU. It's basically a series that, I believe the first episode is going to be like, what if Peggy Carter ended up taking the super soldier serum that was given to Steve Rogers? What would happen if just one minor change in the films were to have taken place? So in this case, what if she would have taken the super soldier serum? She would have become Captain Britain or something like that, or at least the MCU's version of Captain Britain. We'll see what they do with that. But basically, every episode will deal with one minor change in the movie, and it will kind of give this what if this happened storyline for the animated series. So it could be a lot of fun to just have a little bit of fun with and kind of do like little Elseworld stories. And then we're going to obviously get Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings. But before we get that film, like I said, we're getting Black Widow in July. July 9th, I just put it up here because it takes place between Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. So it makes sense to put it up a little bit higher in the timeline. So we'll finally be getting that film starring Scarlett Johansson in July of 2021. Finally. Can't wait for that film. Then in September, we'll be getting Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings. It'll be releasing on September 3rd, 2021. Simu Liu stars as Shang-Chi, and we'll be getting the real Mandarin in this film, supposedly. Not the knockoff version that was in Iron Man 3 that ticked a lot of fans off. We'll be getting the actual Ten Rings and the legend of those as well. And, of course, the real Mandarin will be in this film. So I can't wait for this. This is going to be a Kung Fu Bruce Lee style movie, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then not even a month later, we're going to be getting the sequel to Venom entitled entitled Let There Be Carnage. Cletus Cassidy is going to probably break out of jail and obviously get a symbiote of his own and will be turning into the menacing Carnage, and he'll have to go toe-to-toe with Venom. And there are rumors going around that possibly a Spider-Man cameo could happen in this one as well. Of course, there's a lot of rumors about that going around when Venom came out originally back in, I believe it was 2018. So, we'll see what they do here. The Sonyverse is going to start to expand even more with Venom Let There Be Carnage in September of 2021. And then to round out the year, we're going to be getting the final 2 of our 6 Disney Plus shows here from Marvel Studios. With Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner will be passing the torch to a young archer named, Kate Bishop in this film. And of course, we'll probably get a little bit of an introduction to the Echo character, who will also be getting their own series moving forward. I don't know a whole lot about that character, but we'll be getting some introductions to some new characters, much like we did in Falcon Winter Soldier and WandaVision. We'll be getting some expanded characters from other movies we've already seen, probably play a role in these films as well, or these shows as well, that will eventually lead into films. So if you've not seen any of these MCU Disney Plus series, I highly recommend you go check them out. They're going to be directly linked to the MCU movies moving forward, and they've already said some of the characters will cross over into the films, and some film characters will cross over into the TV shows. So they are going to be highly connected, and because of these shows, we are getting a steady stream of Disney content that deals with the Marvel Cinematic Universe on Disney Plus and in the theaters, to where we have enough Marvel content lasting all year round, and it's incredible. After this, we're going to be getting Kamala Khan. She is going to be getting her own series entitled Miss Marvel. And, of course, she's going to be showing up in Captain Marvel 2 in 2022. So it's, again, a movie or a TV show that is going to be directly linked to a Marvel movie. So definitely check that out here at the end of 2021. Of course, also rounding out the year is going to be the Eternals, which is the film that we just got a trailer for about a couple weeks ago. Starred Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek, Richard Madden, Kit Harington of Game of Thrones fame as well. And we're going to be finding out more about these beings known as the Eternals that have been on Earth for 7,000 years. And they've been around, but they've not made themselves known until now. So we'll see exactly what brings them out. Is it because the world is in chaos after Thanos' snap, or what it might be? We'll have to see. Is it going to be the Deviants? What is going to bring them out of hiding and showing themselves here now that the Avengers are basically no longer a thing as of right now? So we'll see what this movie does here. Directed by Best Picture director, I can't remember her name, Zoe something. But anyway, she'll be directing this film here. So Best Picture director will be directing that movie. And, of course, the movie that everybody is speculating and rumoring about right now, that is Spider-Man No Way Home. That'll be releasing on December 17th, 2021. We are currently awaiting a trailer for this film any day now. Obviously, the speculation is this movie is going to be delving deep into the multiverse after WandaVision kind of cracked the door, possibly open to that. We'll see if Wanda is the one who causes all the chaos that's about to ensue here in the MCU between WandaVision, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. They are supposed to be a trilogy of one storyline here. So we'll see exactly how all this ties together. But No Way Home, obviously the rumor is we're going to be getting Tobey Maguire back as Spider-Man from the early Spider-Man movies I mentioned. The Andrew Garfield Spider-Man from the Amazing Spider-Man films possibly could be returning, as well as, villains like, Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman, the Lizard from the Amazing Spider-Man, Rhino, I can't remember. Electro from Jamie Foxx as well as the MCU could be bringing back the Vulture played by Michael Keaton. Mysterio may be coming back, even though we thought he was dead. All this stuff could be taking place in Spider-Man No Way Home, as well as the rumor that Daredevil, played by Charlie Cox from the original Daredevil series, could be involved in Spider-Man No Way Home as well, now that Marvel owns the rights back to these characters. So there's a lot of rumors going on right now about this film. Spider-Man No Way Home could be a big deal moving forward, but we'll see what they do with it. This may be the biggest Spider-Man movie they ever make if all these rumors hold out to be true. Continuing the Spider-Verse, though, a movie that was actually pushed back due to the pandemic is Morbius, the Living Vampire, starring Jared Leto. It's a character in the Spider-Man obviously mythos here, and obviously in that universe that will be tied directly into Venom and the upcoming Kraven the Hunter film, and possibly if the multiverse opens up with Spider-Man played by Tom Holland could also jump into the Sony Pictures movies such as Venom, Morbius, and Kraven the Hunter himself. So we could be getting Tom Holland in its own separate universe as well as Tom Holland in the MCU, whatever that call comes from the Avengers or whoever may be leading at the time. So we'll see what they do with that, but this movie is key in that regard, so definitely make sure you check it out. And then of course we're going to have, this is all, now we're getting into 2022. Everything I mentioned up to this point is basically 2021. From WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Shang-Chi, Black Widow, Venom, Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, Eternals, and Spider-Man. That is all just 2021. Think about that. Now we're getting into 2022 with Morbius, Doctor Strange 2, Thor: Love and Thunder, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2, and the Marvels, as well as the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, all are in 2022, as well as some of these other TV shows that are down here that are probably going to intertwine with these movies as well. So, yeah, the holiday special will be a special on Disney Plus, but we've got, 4 MCU movies and 2 Sony movies in 2022. So, not to mention the series that are coming our way. It is a great time to be a geek, ladies and gentlemen. But let's start off 2022 with Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch herself, will be returning in this film, and Doctor Strange is going to have to either stop her from going super crazy or whatever it might be. But either way, the multiverse is going to be playing a big role in this movie from the sounds of the title, and it's supposed to be delving a little bit more on the horror side of the MCU, and of course, changing all sorts of things. We might even get possible returns of Tony Stark or Captain America, Steve Rogers. You never know, because obviously they've been, side, or at least we know Tony Stark will be returning probably in Black Widow, but Steve Rogers or Chris Evans himself has been signed on to appear as Captain America at least one more time. It may not be in this movie, but there's another film that I'm about to mention that it very well could be a part of as well. Thor: Love and Thunder, Chris Hemsworth returns in Thor 4, as well as Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie, and the Guardians of the Galaxy will also be returning for a small stint, probably in Thor: Love and Thunder, directed by Taika Waititi. That film just wrapped up production as of this week, so it'll be fun to see that movie when it hits the beginning of the summer in 2022. And then we got to 2022 on July 8th, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Unfortunately, we no longer have the late, great Chadwick Boseman here to play King T'Challa, so we're going to have to either figure out how they're going to pass on the mantle to someone else, possibly his sister Shuri, or what they're going to do. Maybe M'Baku could take up the mantle. But they've already said Black Panther: Wakanda Forever will delve deep into the Wakanda, culture, and that will be expanding the lore of Wakanda itself, and not just focus everything on Black Panther themselves. So it's going to be, and obviously they're going to be doing some TV series about that, which I'm about to get into as well. So they're definitely going to be expanding Wakanda and diving deep into that lore and mythos as well. Sony then obviously has the release of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2, the sequel to the Miles Morales animated movie that came out a few years ago. Highly underrated. If you've not checked that out, it's probably one of the better Spider-Man movies they've ever done. Also has Peter Parker's as well in it as well, and multiple different versions of Spider-Man. So this movie right here could be what got Sony and the MCU kind of starting to consider the idea of doing the multiverse, because this film tackled it so well. And of course, it kind of takes place in its own little world, but you never know with the way the universes are kind of colliding here. We could very well get a crossover between the animated world and the live action world, which could be a lot of fun. And then we get the Marvels, which is the Captain Marvel 2 sequel. The Marvels basically entails having 3 different characters here, including Cara Danvers, played by Brie Larson as Captain Marvel herself, and she will be joined by Lieutenant Trumbull herself, Maria Rambeau, I think that was her name, Monica Rambeau, and she will be probably suiting up as either Photon, or I know she's had multiple names in the comics. So Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and of course Kamala Khan from Miss Marvel will be in the Marvels. They are going to be a trio, female team-up film, so that'll be interesting to see where they go there. Will that have anything to do with the Secret Invasion TV series that is going to be coming with the Skrulls? We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the Skrulls were introduced in the first Captain Marvel film, so we'll see if that has anything to do with that. But it'll be fun to see those three characters on screen together, especially since Kamala Khan is like Captain Marvel's #1 fan. So we'll see what they do with that. And, of course, we have James Gunn returning after he was unceremoniously let go by Disney after some tweets that resurfaced. And, of course, he went and did the Suicide Squad and the Peacemaker show for DC. He is going to be returning to the MCU, though. And during the filming of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, he is going to be filming a holiday special for Disney Plus that will be debuting at Christmas time in 2022, leading up into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in May of 2022. Also, just announced within the last week or two, we've now got the confirmation of Aaron Taylor Johnson, who played Quicksilver in Avengers: Age of Ultron. He is going to be returning to the Marvel world, although as a new character. He will now be playing Kraven the Hunter. That will be produced by Sony and part of the Venomverse, so to speak, and that will release on January 13th, 2023. So now we're getting into the 2023 movies, which again we've got many of. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is the first MCU film of 2023. It will be debuting, I believe, on Valentine's Day weekend. It's entitled Quantumania. And we're going to be getting Kang the Conqueror as one of the villains. Obviously, you start messing with timelines, and the guy who rules the timelines kind of wants to get back at you for messing with all that stuff and messing with his stuff. So we're going to be getting an introduction to that. Of course, we'll be getting the Wasp and Hank Pym and many others returning for that film as well in Ant-Man's third film in his trilogy. Then, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We now know that Dave Bautista has said this will be his last film as Drax the Destroyer, who will also be appearing in Thor: Love and Thunder and obviously the holiday special as well. But this will most likely be James Gunn's last hurrah as the Guardians of the Galaxy director. That does not necessarily mean that the Guardians of the Galaxy are done as a whole, but it may be a different team moving forward. We'll have to wait and see what they do. Or this could be the last Guardians film as a whole. Obviously, they'll probably be on the search for Gamora after Avengers Endgame, and all that sort of good stuff as well. So we'll see what they do. I'm hoping we may get a little bit of an origin as to who created Rocket Raccoon and more, stuff going on there. So I'm highly anticipating this, especially the soundtrack, because James Gunn does a great job with the soundtrack to these films. And that also means with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, we still have 3 untitled Marvel films in 2023 in July, October, and November, which now means that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has graduated to 5 films a year. Everybody was talking about how this October date got pushed back a year due to, I believe, because that was going to be releasing on the exact same day, so they pushed it back a year. So now Marvel has 5 films coming out in 2023, so they're expanding as well as, the series they've got as well. So what could be these 3 films? Well, there's a few films that they've announced that, or one has not been announced but has been confirmed that these could possibly be. So let's get into those right here. Of the films that are announced, Blade could be one of these films, especially in October. It makes sense to put a vampire hunter around the month of Halloween. That could always be the case. We know Captain America 4 is coming. With the minor spoiler alert for Falcon and Winter Soldier, obviously Captain America is now Sam Wilson. He has taken up the shield that Steve Rogers left for him. That whole series went into how all that happened. So if you wanted more information on how Captain America, the mantle has been passed successfully now to Sam Wilson, go check that out as well. And obviously Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, is in that as well. Obviously, one of these films could be Deadpool 3. Ryan Reynolds is going to be returning for another iteration of his Deadpool character. We'll see how that mixes with the MCU. I'd still kind of like to see Deadpool kind of do these Stan Lee cameos, since Stan Lee is unfortunately no longer with us. I think it could be a lot of fun to see Ryan Reynolds pop up as Deadpool in all these films at certain times as well. So we'll see when they slot that film. Hopefully, it'll be within the next few years before people forget about Deadpool. Then, of course, we're going to have the Fantastic Four getting a release date at some point. That reboot has already been announced. We'll see if John Krasinski and Emily Blunt end up becoming Reed Richards and Sue Storm. the Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman, or if they go somewhere else. Obviously, Human Torch and the Thing will obviously be recast as well. So we'll see if Doctor Doom makes an appearance, or if we may get some Galactus and Silver Surfer teases. We'll see if they go that route. I think Galactus could be a great villain to do as the grand finale of the MCU as a whole, but hopefully that's still 10, 20 years down the road. But we'll see what happens. But anyway, we'll see where they go. But those 3 films could be any one of those as well. Now we're going to, and obviously it could also be The Mutants, which is another movie that the MCU has already announced could be coming soon. I don't know if that's what the exact title is going to be, but that is what was mentioned at one point. And The Mutants is basically the X-Men reboot. It would make some sense to not call them the X-Men right away, especially if they've not formed the X-Men team under Xavier's School for the Gifted. So it would make sense to call them the Mutants at first. So that could be an early origin story as well. And we may get mutants intertwined in some of these TV series and movies as well. And then you build up to like an Avengers-style team-up film that could be the X-Men. So we'll see how they reintroduce the X-Men in their world, which will be interesting to see how they do, considering Magneto and Professor Xavier kind of come from a time like World War II. It's kind of hard to do that now based on where we are in the real world. Obviously, Magneto would be like, in his hundreds, or well, he could. I don't know if he'd be 100 years old, but he'd be very, very old. So I don't know if you want to go that route. They may have to retcon some of the stories here just to make it fit in the MCU, but we'll see how they handle it. Hopefully, they've got a plan and they take their time with it. And obviously, maybe give it a little time to breathe in between the X-Men series we got from Fox before they introduce this. So this still could be a few years down the road. Now let's round out all this long-winded talk to discuss some of the unknown dates for some of these other TV shows that are coming out. Armor Wars is going to be the War Machine himself, played by Don Cheadle. Rhodey is going to be getting his own TV series here. And the premise of this is basically when, Tony Stark's tech falls into the wrong hands, Tony Stark's worst nightmare becomes a reality, and War Machine has to deal with this. This could very well tie into Falcon and the Winter Soldier based on the way that series ended. We'll just have to wait and see. But it could also tie into, Falcon and Winter Soldier could also tie into the Secret Invasion series that is coming next year as well, but we'll have to wait and see which one it ties into. But Armor Wars is coming, starring War Machine. Then we're going to be getting Echo, which is going to be a character spin-off from the Hawkeye series. This character will be introduced into that series as well. I don't know a whole lot about that character. I believe it's a deaf character, if I'm not mistaken. We'll have to wait and see. But it is in development at Disney Plus as well. But this could still be a couple years down the line as well. But it's definitely in development. I Am Groot is going to be an animated series on Disney Plus that is going to obviously take our favorite Groot here, and we're going to be seeing him in small animated episodes as well. So hopefully that'll be a lot of fun. It probably won't be heavily connected to the MCU, but definitely will be a lot of fun because we all love Baby Groot. And I think it is supposed to be Baby Groot, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see what happens there. Ironheart is Riri Williams. She is an inventor. She's a high school student, and she is one of the first people to actually create a suit of armor that is akin to the Iron Man armor. So this and Armor Wars is probably going to delve heavily into the legacy of Tony Stark. Obviously, in the comics, Tony Stark was Ironheart's AI at one point, so we could see Robert Downey Jr. return as an AI, so it doesn't take away from his sacrifice at Endgame, but we still could get some more Tony Stark in that way. So we'll see what they do, and I wouldn't be surprised if Rhodes, War Machine himself, makes an appearance in this series as well, as they introduce us to the new version of Iron Man and Ironheart. Moon Knight, we just got some casting news about this series. It is going to be starring Oscar Isaac. Poe Dameron himself from the Star Wars sequel trilogy will be playing the schizophrenic Mark Spector, who has been imbued with the powers of the moon god Khonshu. It will delve deeply into Egyptian culture, much like Wakanda delves into African culture. So it'll be interesting to see how they tie all this into the MCU as well, and where they take this series. This is what I'm highly intrigued by. And speaking of Wakanda, we're going to have a couple Wakandan series. Apparently, it was just confirmed that Okoye, one of the members of the Dora Milaje, will be getting her own origin story, which could delve into how she became a member of the Dora Milaje itself, or how the Dora Milaje, its inner workings, are more highly laid out here as a story. So we're going to get more info on that. And, of course, the Wakanda series that is being headed up by Black Panther director Ryan Coogler. We're going to, again, delve deeper into the Wakandan culture here, So between the Wakanda Forever movie and these two series, we're going to be getting a lot more Wakanda moving forward. So definitely look forward to that. And I want to save Secret Invasion for last, but She-Hulk obviously is the cousin of Bruce Banner. She is a lawyer, and I believe if the comic books are followed here, She-Hulk will be sick, and I believe she has cancer or something to that degree. And the only way to save her is for Bruce Banner to give her a blood transfusion, and of course that's a problem because the Hulk is inside Bruce Banner. So She-Hulk, because of the blood transfusion, the character becomes She-Hulk. And obviously, and I think that she doesn't even have the ability to change back, so she's just always the Hulk or the She-Hulk. So they may change that a little bit for the series, but we'll see what they do here. But another lawyer that could be intertwined with Daredevil and things like that, so we may be seeing a little bit of her sooner rather than later in some other series, maybe before she makes the change as She-Hulk. So we'll see what happens there. Then, of course, Sony is also developing some TV series moving forward involving their Marvel characters, and one of them being Silk. I don't know a whole lot about this character, but it's definitely Spider-Man related. So everything that they have moving forward, they're trying to expand their Spider-Verse and really start to delve into some of the characters in the Spider world that we have yet to see. So I can't wait to see that as well. So, and of course, we have another Sony Marvel film that is yet to be announced that they've been doing 2 a year since Venom came out with Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse as well. And of course we now have Venom 2 and Spider-Man No Way Home, and of course next year is Kraven the Hunter and Morbius. Well, Morbius is next year, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2, and then Kraven the Hunter is in 2023. So I expect in 2023 there'll also be a second Marvel film that is yet to be announced from Sony, so we'll also see more there. So rounding all this out, let's talk about Secret Invasion, which is the Disney Plus series that is going to be starring Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury and Ben Mendelsohn returning as the Skrull Talos from the Captain Marvel movie that took place a couple years ago before Avengers Endgame. Well, it took place in the timeline way before that, but they're going to be returning for what is going to be the Skrull Invasion of Earth, which could be a big time Disney Plus series here, almost a movie level event. And if you've seen any of the Marvel shows up to this point, they obviously are not scrimping when it comes to the budget of these things. So, Secret Invasion is going to be a big deal that could bring in a lot of other characters from the MCU, because it's going to be an invasion storyline where you cannot tell who your enemies are and who are your friends, because these are shape-shifting aliens. So it makes sense to bring in a bunch of different characters here. There's already been some casting news on it, so I believe it's supposed to be coming out in 2022, which would make sense to kind of release it near the Marvel's movie that is coming out, since Captain Marvel and Nick Fury and the Skrulls are all kind of interconnected. So it very well could be in the latter half of 2022, with filming, I believe, to take place later this year. So that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Marvel plans in general when it comes to Sony as well. There's all sorts of good stuff coming your way here. I mean, it's insane the amount of stuff that Marvel, DC, Star Wars, everything has going forward. As I've said, and obviously proof by all the videos I've done this weekend here, obviously there's a lot coming our way. It is a great time to be a geek, ladies and gentlemen. So, hey, it's me again. I know it's a lot to go over here. These videos, I wanted to put out some content on this channel to kind of let you know where some of these studios are going moving forward. I know it's a lot to take in. And of course, if anything changes, you can obviously stay right here on my channel, and I will go over all the changes and that are coming up. But this is just a little bit of an introductory course to what is coming in Marvel. So I thought I'd go over that for everybody here and let them know what is coming down the line here. But the real question here is, guys, I know this is a little bit of a long video, but what do you guys think about the future of Marvel? Comment down below. Let me know. Are you excited for all this, or do you think after Avengers Endgame you're just kind of over it? Let me know. I'm excited. I love all this stuff, so I can't wait to see this. But definitely hit that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you get all the notifications about when I put up new content here on my channel. And until my next video, guys, take care.